Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Billboard. I am your co-host, Greg Wise, founder and CCO at OneScreen.ai. And I'm actually riding solo today because my partner in crime, Charlie Riley, is actually on spring break. So depending on when you folks are listening to this, yeah, he's on spring break. So Charlie, go enjoy, relax. We're holding down the fort here. And really excited. We have a very special guest here today, Bill Kenney. So excited to have Bill. I think you folks are going to really enjoy what Bill has to say, what he does. And he's going to do a much better job of introducing himself. We can jump right in. Bill is CEO and partner at Focus Lab. So they're a branding agency known for helping organizations become their boldest, their most original selves. He's got a ton of experience, 15 plus years in the game, leading teams, building this current business, and really helps to lead and work with venture backed B2B businesses, high growth startups, and helping them sort of marry performance with brand. But so I don't butcher it, Bill, tell the folks who you are. Give us a little bit of background
You
on
did
you.
good. You did good. Shout out to the spring breakers. I'm fresh back from spring break. I don't know if you can see the bronzy tan I got. I just spent a week in Puerto Rico. A plus. Highly recommend.
Bill, I was gonna say you do look like you have a nice glow to you.
Yeah, I'm glowing today. Special for the show. Yeah, so I mean you nailed it. I run and have been building a B2B brand agency for 15 years. We didn't start out as that, as every business owner would know. You start out as a thing and you grow and you mature and you evolve. So we started out as really a design and development shop, very generic. And now we are very much not generic. B2B tech is our primary client. That's our niche. And it's all brand, brand, brand for us. Like you said, we've been building a team, got a team about 27 at the moment. I think that's our current head count, all full-time team members. We're fully remote. That was not necessarily a COVID catalyst that kind of sped it up, but we were already half remote by the time COVID came around. So yeah, we love brand. Excuse me. It's all we do. And as a past, I guess, happily graduated art school student, it's funny to kind of see where my journey has gone to now owning a brand agency.
It's great. It's great. Brand is that topic that is now at the forefront. I know for you, it's always been that way.
Hmm.
From our perspective, we're really seeing this big shift from performance only oriented marketing. And I want to get your perspective on this to now talking about how brand is as important, if not potentially more important going forward. Right. So tell us what you think. How do you think about brand?
Yeah. So it is funny to see it's interesting to see how the marketing world and how brand is discussed in general by anybody through different cycles and evolutions of like business over years and decades now that we've been in the game. Performance marketing was huge just even a couple years back, right?
Right.
Got to be able to measure everything. Got to be able to find attribution for what this person came from this, and every dollar we spent we can account for. And I understand the desire for that. It's, we're in a data driven world now, and it just makes sense. I think what people have come to realize, both marketing departments ahead of the business and now the businesses themselves, let's call it the CFOs, CEOs, you can't just live and die by every dollar spent brings a dollar back. That's like a very surface level way to think about the business and how brand might serve the business. You have to create a brand above that that is more than a dollar spent, dollar back. It's like energy in, compounding return out. It doesn't always have to be dollars. Sometimes we do brand refresh or rebrand work, and that correlates to better internal alignment and better efficiency inside the business. It leads to better recruitment because now you're actually telling your proper story and people are getting excited about it, or they can understand the culture that they might be joining. There's so many other things to think about that go beyond like performance marketing of brand, right? So even in my LinkedIn post today, it was brand is not a marketing expense. It's a business pillar.
Hmm.
You build your business on brand. Brand tells you both how you should market your product, but also how you might onboard somebody true to your brand. People know why they work at Patagonia, right? Patagonia knows what it stands for. That's a
Yeah.
humongous company, but everybody understands what they're after. Not as easy in B2B SaaS tech to have this like game changing mission that everyone's excited for, but you should still have a vision and a mission that everybody understands. It's not just market the product, spend dollars on LinkedIn ads, convert this many new customers. Because the problem with that is it's a never ending rat race.
Mm.
That's literally just a wheel. You got to keep putting money in and get money out, money in, money out. That needs to be a part of it. But if you can build a brand, and now let's use big names, and everyone's going to say, yeah, but they have a lot of money, Bill. If you use a brand like Nike, they can put $1 in and get 700 out now, right? It's not a one-to-one relationship anymore. Now that takes a long time. They could put $0 in and still get 300 out, right? Because now I'm always going to be a Nike fan for whatever reason, because that's where I was rooted when I was young. They don't have to spend dollars on me anymore. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. That's brand, right? So it's not new customer, it's retaining. It's actually getting like affinity from a
Mhm.
customer to fall in love with the brand. So that was a long rant, but that's how we think about brand.
I love it. So it's interesting because you mentioned sort of when you were back in school and you were in the art side of things. I talk about this story when I took my marketing courses in college. This is umpteen amount of years ago, a different time, but marketing was creative. It was taught as a creative tool, a creative department, if you will,
Hmm.
and then it became a finance job. And
Yeah.
and it's unbelievable because and I get a lot of marketers today want to do more brand. They want to be more creative. And you nailed it. You talked about that shift where CFOs, CEOs, and investors need to sort of get past the fact that not everything has to be measured. A dollar in equals X amount of dollars out. That
Yep.
there is long term sustainability that is critical. So the question is, what are some of those brand components? Like, what does brand literally mean? It's a website refresh. It's here's a selfish plug, out of home advertising. But like, what does it literally mean to you? What kinds of things are you doing for your clients?
Yeah. So I can tell you how we, the ways in which we serve our clients, but let's also just talk about like what brand is too. Let's do that big, fuzzy, uncomfortable conversation. And let's maybe contextualize it to something that people might all know that's easier to understand. Let's think about like a restaurant, right? So a lot of people think that brand is very much the visual identity, as we would call it, how that brand shows up in the world via generally its website being one of the biggest places. If you think about a restaurant, okay, the facade, okay, I'm going to go into this really nice steakhouse. So you would expect it to look a certain way on the outside. That would be the visual identity. Maybe even when you go in there, the appeal of the inside of the restaurant, that would also be the visual identity. But what do we care about as much of that as that when we walk into a restaurant? We care about the quality of the food, the experience of the hostess, and then the waiter or the waitress, the whole environment, the pace of it, all of that, the pace of the food coming in, the food coming out, how noisy is it? All these things really matter. That is now the brand of that restaurant. I think because a lot of us, and I think I'm speaking for you appropriately, you and I live in a digital world. We don't experience a lot of the brands around us in this way, meaning like our customers are very much digitally based. They don't have a brick and mortar. So then it just comes back to visual identity. It comes back to a website. And it's like, well, going back to the points I made earlier, how you onboard somebody into your organization sets the tone of what your company cares about. That is your brand too.
Mm,
Even if they don't see anything, even if this is not a visual game, now it's an experience game for them. Those things really matter. In a company like ours, we pour into culture, we pour into the customer experience in how we meet with our clients, how we empathize through the hard journey of a rebrand. These are no longer just creating pixels and writing words and coming up with the best strategy for a B2B tech company. That's our brand. All that experience. So when we say what is brand, it's literally it's the cliche of saying it's everything. It literally is
mm,
everything, but to greater and lesser degrees of how a customer might experience. So when you think about Focus Lab, what do we deliver? We start at the foundational level. We are pouring the fountain. Now let's go to another kind of analogy. We pour the
love it.
foundation of the house. Is it a farmhouse? Is it a ranch? Is it a colonial? What are we going for here? Now we frame the house, sheetrock, we insulate the house. At some point, then we say, okay, the house is built. This is your house now. It is now up to you to keep up and evolve the house. You might change some of the interior. You might decide a couple of years from now you're going to knock down a wall. The foundation is still the same. It's on sturdy ground. You know what you're trying to achieve. So, like, to go further and more clear, probably, we do the brand strategy foundation, visual identity, verbal identity, structure of the house. We'll stay on post project and even help build out all the new assets
Hmm.
for the rollout campaigns, but actual tactical tools, pitch decks, sales decks, all the things that people need on the daily. That would, I guess, maybe be the blinds and the paintings on the walls and the pictures you hang and the couches that you pick out. And then we're like, okay, we got it. That's your house now. Go live in it. Go live in it and learn from it, and then decide maybe as you evolve what you might want different. So that's what we do.
Got it. I love that. What about when you've lived in the house for a few years and your wife decides that she wants to buy all new furniture, uh,
Yes.
and doesn't tell you about it until the very last second, so you have no say in it and can't say no. I'm not saying that I've lived through that in my own personal experience, but you could probably all read between the lines. I think it's really interesting. What size companies, like, so I guess two-part question here, because all that makes a lot of sense. Because a lot of our customers and clients and folks listening to this, what does brand mean? I think you did an excellent job sort of explaining that. So, two-part question: what size companies do you typically work with? And then second is, what are some of what's the pain that they're feeling? What are the challenges that they're having where brand comes in and helps to solve that problem?
So the company size, as we've grown as a business, I think it's natural to understand that the company size has gotten larger. What we've done
Sure.
though is we've kind of gone and backfilled. So we've gone through the startup. We've actually gone from mom and pop when it was just me and my business partner in Savannah, Georgia, working literally on like restaurant websites, to then evolving past that into more of the startup VC backed,
Mhm.
where now we're starting to get work with San Francisco and New York and kind of be like your big metros, and tech starting to become a hub of those kind of clientele outreach to us. So right now, I would say our primary client is in that Series B window. Series A to Series C is probably the better range to call it. We still have plenty of true startup though, potentially bootstrap. Bootstrap's not really ready to invest in brand typically at the level that we deliver it, and therefore the cost and these types of things.
Yep.
But we will go from a true startup, and we have worked with publicly traded companies as well. Zora is an example. We worked with Braze, if you're familiar, when
Yeah.
they were Series B. They were actually still called App Boy, renamed with a company in the city called Lexicon, which we're tight friends with. We took over and did all the visual identity, and now they're public. So our hope is to follow people on that journey. And to go maybe a little bit long on the question, we've actually now been around long enough to have people catch us on the early part of the journey. Let's call it a true startup, to now getting closer to that Series A, Series B, and they need to actually reconsider their brand. It doesn't mean the work we did earlier was wrong. It was right for them at the time. And that kind of leads me to the second part of your question, which is like, what are the pain points? Everyone's hitting their own version of pain on their growth track. For Sales Loft, it was, wow, we've had really rapid growth and we're at the Series C stage and we still look like we're Series A. We're still able to perform and we're still like a category leader.
Mm.
We don't look the part really. It's like the restaurant that's epic but looks terrible from the outside, and you have to convince your friends to go in. You're like, trust me, the food is great, right? So the product was great, but visually it looked very dated. So that could be seen as a very surface level, but that's an important obstacle for a company like that to then to be taken more serious at the scale that they actually are.
Sure.
Some people at the startup level just need to look like their cousin didn't make the identity. Some people have mergers and acquisitions, M&A activity happening. Now there are three brands coming together to become a single brand, a single culture. What's the new brand story that's going to bring three different teams and three different cultures together? Not just a logo. People don't unify and rally behind a
Mhm.
logo. That's one tiny output of the exercise. They need to rally behind, like, what are we now? They need a new flag. A lot of times that flag is the story and the mission and the vision of the organization. So those are a couple key examples of why people might reach out to us.
Got it. From your perspective, what are the signals when you come across, you get in touch with a founder or a CMO, one of these types of companies that you just talked about? What signals tell you that they're ready or perhaps not ready for a rebrand?
Mm. Fantastic question. You know, you hate, you go on podcasts and everyone says, great question, great question, great question. That's a great question, sir. Yes. The greatness of it is that is so important to be able to recognize if people are ready or if they're not ready.
Hmm.
The signals that they're ready are generally if you can see the whole leadership is bought in and it's not now just a marketing effort. Sometimes marketing is ready, even at a greater scale, right? When the client's large enough to have a true CMO title, and that CMO actually has a marketing team below them, and they all know they need this. But it's clear that C suite outside of them is like, okay, marketing, we trust you, and maybe we need this, but we have other initiatives too. I could still signal the company needs it, but you know that the project will be more challenging. It doesn't even mean the project won't be successful. It'll be more challenging. The true signal is like when you've got that potentially founder or CEO in the room and they're like, "Yeah, I know we need this." All that legwork and mental kind of like progress has been done already, and they know they need it. They know what brand is to them. They know how they will get value out of it, and they're ready to embark. Then you're like, "Let's go. Let's set sail." We're up for both challenges for what it's worth. And we really pride ourselves on tackling the first challenge, which is then becoming a partner with that CMO to say, we know this is going to be a little bit of a battle is probably a heavy word to use, but a little bit of a battle because you're doing some convincing along the way and they
Mhm.
don't fully understand brand. We're here with you on that journey. We're not just a vendor way over here on the side and we're like, that's your problem. A CMO is our number one ally.
Yeah.
That's our ICP. We need to be as valuable to that person as we can. I will do one-on-one calls with CEOs of the organizations at the beginning of a project to talk to them about what brand is and the journey they're about to embark on, not just leaving that to their CMO to tell them, right? That builds trust, expectation setting, all that stuff.
I love that. I love that you're a partner in that process because
It's huge.
that's huge. It's typically, of course, you're going to get people who are, I'm ready. I'm a new CMO. I came from a company who did believe in brand. We did all these things. So on day one at this new company, we're implementing it. I love that you are a partner and you're on their side of the table to help them, really with that pitch internally, because that's what it is. And Charlie and I have talked about this in previous episodes where it's you have to be the best salesperson at the organization because this is a new concept for so
Yes.
many people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then when you launch a campaign and you can't just measure the efficacy of it 2 days later, that is
Hmm.
scary as hell for people.
Yes. Hmm.
And so I love that. Shifting gears just a bit, but just would love to know on your end, like what's a recent brand, you mentioned a couple names, but like what's a recent brand transformation that you're really proud of? What made
Yeah.
it special? What'd you do?
Yeah. Jeez, this is always a hard question, but I'll get into that in a second. You made me think of two other things I want to just note on the previous
Please.
question, which is like, how do you know when people are ready? I kind of signaled it, but I'm gonna do it even more clear. When we worked with Marketo, which was a pivotal project for us in our growth, because everybody knew Marketo, and at that point we were a small Savannah shop, and all of a sudden people were like, "Whoa, who are those people, and how did they get to work with Marketo?" As soon as that project was coming into play, Sarah Kennedy, who was the CMO at the time, and then Steve Lucas, who was the CEO, it was immediately clear that Steve was like, Sarah's got this. This is her project. Anything she says goes. I fully trust it. I'm ready for this. Let's go. That was a big organization at that point, going through some pretty big change. It was very clear that everybody was on board. So I just wanted to make the point even more clearly. The CMO was literally saying, I trust that person. It's their role, and I'm going to follow their lead. Okay, great. The other thing that shows when people aren't ready is even if they say things like I just said, if you can tell from a mental capacity, this is going to be one of five initiatives, and therefore they can't join the weekly meeting, or they're going to have a really hard time turning around for us as a weekly deliverable with the feedback cycles and all this. If they say like, no, no, I got it. I'm going to be able to dedicate time to it. But you can kind of tell they're not going to be able to. Sometimes you could pick up on even just body
Yeah.
language and like they show up late to the first meeting. Oh God, they're a little bit. You're like, oh, this person has a busy schedule. Now I'm being empathetic to that. I'm not saying boo on them. That is a signal of this is going to be a hard project. Because when I do these post project interviews with all of our clients, I put them up on YouTube and I talk about what was most challenging for you. And at the end, I hit them with the what would you tell anybody's the most important thing if they're about to embark on this journey themselves? They always say, make sure you got the time to do it.
Hmm.
Make sure you have the calendar or mental capacity to really devote to this. You can't be one of five initiatives. So that's just going a little bit longer on that question. So let's go to the what's your favorite child question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up the website. How's
Yes.
that? I'm gonna pull up
Love
our
it.
website. Because if I don't do that, then I'm going to go straight top of mind last project, and I
Yeah.
don't know that that's fair. Projects that I love. Let me answer this in one way first. I'm an art student. I went to art school. I'm a creative dude at my core. Those aren't the projects I love the most, and I think that's worth stating. I'm also very much a people person. I've started this business out of my desire and joy in just serving people and helping them on their own journey. So my projects that I really love are the projects that were great people
Mm.
and we have such a good energy together and we're able to then because of that build momentum and then a great outcome and the project is wildly successful beyond creative. I think about having said that I think about Totango. We just worked with Totango. Totango's spawn point was similar to something I said before, which was M&A. So they had just acquired Catalyst. Totango is the number 2 player in their space. It acquires the number 3 in their space. Now you have 2 brands, 2 unique identities, 2 unique voices. Catalyst being the young, quick up and comer,
Hmm.
quickly rising through the ranks. Totango being the old guard. You're going to bring those 2 groups together. That project team was A plus from Totango's CEO being there, new Catalyst CEO coming into Totango, to Karen, the CMO, now having to bring both together, to the whole marketing team on their side that was a part of the weekly meetings with us. There was just such a trust, such an excitement, such an like out of the sandbox, open mind thinking, no
Yeah.
fear, no fear kind of driving decisions, just open minds and trying to enjoy the journey for what it is. What a standout project. So I would note that one. Message Gears is another one that comes to mind that we just recently did. Same type of client trust. I hate to use that. I love using that word, but I also cringe a little bit. It's like that's implying like people should trust us. We know everything. But there's just a sense of like we're both in this together and we're going to go on the journey as opposed to you're a vendor. And as soon as you do something I feel nervous about, I'm going to pull back and I'm going to get a little bit recluse and I'm going to be fearful. It just creates a little bit of an air bubble in the system. And we want to remove all air bubbles so we can be free on both sides to explore and dream and think and critique the work with open eyes. From a creative standpoint, man, I think about projects like Trusted Sec, which is a cybersecurity play. If people go onto our portfolio and look at that, their logo is literally a smiley face with like a pirate patch over the eye. And when they came to us, I remember talking to a strategist on our team, and I'm like, wait, so you're telling me they want to work with us and go through a rebrand, but they don't want to change their logo, which is a smiley face with a pirate patch over the eye. I'm like, surely we have to address that logo, right? The CEO and founder was adamant. No, that's like a part of our culture and that is staying. And I'm like, okay. Wow, I don't know if that's the right I'm thinking this. I don't know if that's the right decision. I freaking love the outcome of that project, and largely because of how that was kept and how it was amplified. We turned it into, like, spray painted T-shirts.
Ah,
We
yes.
took it into, like, 3D models and made it, like, metal and spinning. We had so much fun with that. That became such a genuine, authentic, creative expression of the identity that I'm glad I didn't just propose that I'm the smartest person in the room and it should go. So that's another project that comes top of mind.
I think that's phenomenal. I think the common denominator from what I'm picking up and what we see on our end is it is rowing in the same direction. It's the
That's it.
understanding and the commitment together. It's the internal alignment, which in marketers out there are probably thinking to themselves, that is a constant struggle, is internal alignment. But that really is everything,
Yeah,
because once you sort of are free and you're all rowing in that same direction and the same current, it is unbelievable. Those are the best case studies. Those are the best outcomes.
yes.
And, we see it with out of home advertising, because for a lot of folks that we work with, similar, by the way, on the B2B side, we work with all sorts of companies, B2B, B2C, CPG. On the B2B side, our core ICP is similar to what you mentioned, your series B and above, and oftentimes, smaller than that, publicly traded companies as well, but high growth, tech startups who oftentimes have a team of marketers who have not done things like out of home advertising before,
Okay.
or have
Yeah,
incorporated things like brand into their vocabulary. So it is that internal alignment when they have that trust from their CFO, CEO, and board. Sky is the limit. They lean into the
that's it.
creative
Yes,
aspects of using things like out of home. It becomes such a beautiful thing, and they're free, right,
that's
to
it.
sort of
The
make
leash is off.
decisions. That the leash is off. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you one last question here, because, of course, we do out of home. It's a podcast, Beyond the Billboard. What are
yeah.
your thoughts on out of home advertising? Experience with it.
Yeah, so I'll be transparent because I am transparent. I don't have a ton of experience with out of home, but that doesn't mean I can't give you a valuable answer that is worthwhile of being on this show.
And by the way, most people
Generally,
don't have a lot of experience with it.
yeah. Generally, everyone's going web, 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 web. I know all of these clients are going on, not all of them, most of them, especially that Series B and up level, they're going to have campaigns and stuff that make it to out of home. As far as I'm concerned, do anything and everything that's going to put you in front of your customer and keep you top of mind. For example, I think of LinkedIn as my out of home billboard,
Hmm,
and I talk about it that way. My activity on LinkedIn is so that everybody that's driving down the internet of LinkedIn every day sees my billboard because I'm active every single day. If that is an actual billboard or that's a LinkedIn ad, everyone has to determine what's right for them. But maybe in a world where everything is online now, I don't know. You'd have to tell me. Maybe there's a world where getting out of home is even more advantageous. Maybe that is not the old way, maybe it's the new way, right? Maybe there's a resurgence there. I If I think about not I know it's not all billboards. I saw the truck actually. Y'all had the truck at Drive last year? Is that right? You
yes,
pulled up
I
the
was
truck
rusty. Yeah,
outside?
yeah,
Yep, right. So there's experiences that can be built that are different and unique in the way that you might serve up than just another buying a spot on a site somewhere and serving your ad up. I can't imagine that those days are going to be dead soon anyways. I
yeah,
don't even want to do that for my business because it feels like throwing money literally out the window, where maybe an investment like having that truck pull up outside of the back of Drive in Burlington, Vermont. People are like, "What's that truck? Why is everyone crowding around that truck?" That's actually a moment, and I remember it. And we're like, we're not a year out, we're 6 months, 7 months out.
yeah.
So I would say I think it's a great opportunity. I guess that would be it. In my like inexperienced, naive kind of like not having bought a lot of out of home property.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
part of the reason I bring it up is because we think about brand usually when we're talking about out of home with customers, they're incorporating this under brand. There's other types of
Okay.
brand
Got it.
activities, other initiatives that are happening. Now we are marrying brand plus performance. That's, sort of how we're modernizing the space. But to sort of like wrap this up, it is the resurgence, and to you and I, we know it's never left. But even like you said, 2 years ago, but a decade ago, brand was not something that was necessarily top of mind for a lot of folks. And now we're seeing the pendulum swing, and I believe that's the next decade plus. Everything you've talked about, everything we sort of stand for and help companies do. Bill, this has been awesome. Two things. One, I need you to tell the folks you are an author as well. Can you
I
please
am an
tell us about
author.
the book?
Yeah. Yes. 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 I'll do a quick plug. We talked a lot about the journey that people go on in the rebrand and how to align stakeholders and how we put a lot of energy into that. I literally document our whole process in the
Love
book,
it.
Conquer Your Rebrand. I got the URL, yay, conquerrebrand.com. So the book can be found there or just on Amazon where you can actually see real reviews and things like that. That was a fun journey. It was really nice to write really to the CMO. The back 7 chapters of the book are literally, hey, CMO, here's our process. The first 3 chapters are, hey, CEO, here's why brand matters.
Mm,
So kind of cover both dynamics there. So yeah, thanks
well,
for the lead in on that.
absolutely. And then tell the folks too where else they can find you.
Really, I would just say go to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
As cliche as it might sound, maybe not for the demographic listening to this, but I spend every day, all day on LinkedIn. I have the same handle on every platform, whether it's X, Instagram, etc. It's Bill S. Kenney. S is middle initial, Kenney, Kenney. But really find me on LinkedIn. I'm
Good.
most active there.
Excellent. Well, Bill, a pleasure to have you on Beyond the Billboard. Really appreciate the time and the insight. This was a phenomenal conversation. Now, to everyone else listening, thanks for tuning in. And until the next time on Beyond the Billboard, really appreciate it. And to Charlie, enjoy your spring break. And we'll see y'all out there very soon.
Later.
Thanks, Bill.